Speaking of freedom or something, let's bring on Michael Knowles, who expresses his First Amendment freedom by wearing that absurd sweater.
This is one of the only times of the year that I'm allowed to wear. I try wearing it during the summer. This is one of the few times it's really appreciated.
It is true. It is a great, great sweater. Cynthia made that with her own hands, right?
That's true, and it's still doused in tobacco, smoke, and booze from the party on Saturday. So I figured might as well bring it in. And
it's not just me, right? It's not. That is a wonderful party, isn't it?
Oh, it is the best. It is truly one of the great highlights of the season.
And your prank bringing Spencer in was spectacular. It was actually one of the best surprises I've ever had.
Well, we realized who the prank is on because it was just a nice gesture to you. You saw your son at this great party, truly one of the real highlights of Christmas time. We had a good time. He's my pal from college. We always love hanging out with Spencer. The real joke is on Spencer, who had to fly 25 hours in a 36-hour period.
It's true. He was here for 12 hours, and he's coming back in a week.
Yeah.
He was here for 12 hours, and he slept on the couch, and then we took him all back.
Classic Klavan, just insisting on going across the globe to read more books and then flying back a week later.
That was funny. He said to me, I have to go back to do my work. I knew that you would understand. I said, I have no argument. What can I tell you? And congratulations, another week of Another Kingdom. Although we did get burned, the TV lady turned us down. I should say that. And she turned us down. I'm sure it's about me. I really am. Because she didn't give, she's a lovely person, very smart, but she didn't give, her reasons were a little bit shady, and I just vague.
They said, oh yeah, I really love the project.
Yeah.
I really love the characters and the plot. There's just one thing that I don't like about this. Yeah, I wonder what that, I don't know what it could be. Maybe it's me, who knows?
But the thing is, I do have more pitches. They may not happen until next year, but I do have more pitches, so I hope people keep coming in and leaving good reports, because we still need that. That's the only way we're going to overcome the prejudice.
By the way, it is how you know that this town is really against right-wingers, because the listeners, Daily Wire listeners, your listeners have really come through. I mean, there are like 1,300 or 1,400 five-star reviews on here, and for some reason, TV is still reluctant to buy it.
It does have to. All right, but let us talk Christmas. Last time we talked about the genealogies, but this is a more inherently interesting thing. We're going to talk about the Annunciation. Somebody asked me when I said you're going to talk about the Annunciation, what that is. It is the announcement to Mary that she is, in fact, miraculously pregnant.
That's right, and there are two parallel events. There's the announcement that Elizabeth will become pregnant with John the Baptist, and the announcement that Mary will become pregnant of the Holy Spirit with Jesus. And those events have important parallels. So, for instance, Zechariah, John the Baptist's father, is told of his son. They didn't think it would happen. They're very old. He's told in the temple while he's doing the liturgy. He's a prominent man in a prominent place, performing an important act to God, and he's told in the temple. On the other hand, Mary is an unknown woman, an unknown virgin in an unknown town, in an unknown private dwelling, to whom the angel Gabriel comes and says, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. You found favor with God, and you'll have a son named Jesus. And that parallelism shows you all sides of Christianity. There is this great, important, magnificent, majestic aspect. And then, of course, Christ himself, the Logos of the universe, comes into the universe in the most humble, hidden way that one could.
And Zechariah, the religious guy, doesn't believe in it, right?
He doesn't believe it right away. So they're very old, and he says both Zechariah and Mary become scared when an angel comes down and talks to them. Unsurprising, I think. If an angel came down to me, I'd probably get goosebumps. Yeah. But Zechariah remains troubled, and they ask when the angel says that they'll have a child. In the case of John the Baptist, they ask, that can't be possible. How is that possible? No way. They don't believe it right away. Mary differently does believe it. She also asks, how is that possible, which is a difficult problem. Obviously, the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox and many varieties of Christian denomination believe in the perpetual virginity of Mary. Some Protestants don't believe in the perpetual virginity. Either way you fall on it, there's this very strange question. So the angel Gabriel says to Mary, you will conceive a child in your womb. She's betrothed. She, for most purposes of the law, already has a husband, though she's not yet living with him. And she says, how is this possible? I know no man. I do not have a husband. Or I have not known my husband. And she isn't stupid. One assumes she knows where babies come from. But she says, how is it possible that I will conceive? And even Pope Benedict says this must remain a mystery. Explanations on both sides don't really hold up to scrutiny.
In other words, she might have taken it to mean I'll get married and have a baby.
Yeah, one assumes that if an angel came to me now and said, "Sweet little Elisa will conceive," I'd say, "Okay, I kind of figure out how that's going to work. I don't want to tell any tales at a school, but I could see how this would happen.
How that might happen, right?"
Mary doesn't seem to understand it, but it isn't a disbelief. It isn't this won't happen. She asks simply how it will happen, and in that call, that Hail Mary, the word in Greek is to rejoice. And in the Greek, we see the universality of Christ. We see the opening up of the promise made to the Israelites, made to the Jews, to the entire world. And there are obviously so many parallels throughout the Old Testament into this moment. But Zephaniah says, the Lord is in your womb. Exodus says that God dwells in the Ark of the Covenant as dwelling in Israel's womb. And now we have the new Ark. We have the Ark of the New Covenant, which is literally Mary's womb. And the word literally is so important because that is what Christ does. Christ unites the heaven and the earth, the physical and the metaphysical, the symbol and the symbolized in this person of Christ. So then there is this moment when it has been said by some theologians, the heavens are waiting. Because unlike other world religions or heresies, or sometimes the distinction is blurry, this is a God who recognizes human dignity and free will. So there's total grace. There is the angel coming down the mountain, the messenger of the Lord coming down the mountain onto Mary, telling her what's going to happen. But then they wait until she says, "Thy will be done. I am a servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." So there is still the human element of free will, of human dignity. God can come down the mountain, but humans have the right and the ability to turn toward God or to turn away from God.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah. That's not my own thought. I lived a lot of these things from Pope Benedict, and obviously all of theologians for 2 millennia.
His book on the Nativity is brilliant. But as you're talking about this, I was thinking about Sam Harris, the famous atheist who wrote a book, and he said he quoted something from Eastern literature, Eastern religion, because he likes to meditate and he thinks this is
They
very
all
profound.
think that's really cool.
They all think that's really cool. And there is, I studied Zen for a long time. And there's a lot of very complex talk that sounds very scientific and sounds very modern when you're looking at Eastern religions. And Sam Harris says in one of his books, The End of Toleration, I think, he says, is there anything in the Christian religion that is anywhere near as complex as this? And I immediately thought, yes and no. I mean, no, in the sense that Christianity is made so that the simplest person can understand what's happened because it does not judge you. It does not have Sam Harris's pride and his intelligence. It just comes for everybody. But at the same time, once you start to think about it as an intellectual, as a person who thinks, it is completely full of riches that just come pouring out of it once you start to parse it like that.
And it's endlessly illuminating. I suppose that word is important. It's endlessly enlightening in a way that I think modern secularists or former secularists, they flirt with Buddhism and Eastern religion because it's so simple. Edwin Bevan, C.S. Lewis's pal, says that it's the natural reaction of human nature is pantheism or seeing God in everything and God in nothing, trying to make him an idea. But in the Annunciation and in the Incarnation, we see that God is not an idea. God is a person.
Yeah.
He is a person with a will and with intelligence, and infinite will and infinite intelligence, as Dante describes heaven, where dove si può e ciò che si vuole, where the will and the ability are one.
That's amazing. I always thought that quote meant "pay up or I'll break your legs."
Yeah, that's the other. That's when you translate it into Sicilian in New York. There's a little bit that's lost in the translation.
So what are you talking about on your show today?
Today we are talking about all fake news. Obviously, this was a great weekend for fake
was
news.
It not?
But then we have VDH. We have Dr. Victor Davis Hanson. And he has this great book on the Second World Wars.
Yep.
And on this day in history, Germany declared war on the United States, one of the great blunders of the war.
But now that we know that Eisenhower cheated on his wife, we have to surrender.
We have to surrender. Otherwise, we will be corrupted by Eisenhower.
Exactly.
How can I look myself in the mirror?
And also, Jefferson, was fooling around with his slaves, so we have to set fire to the Declaration of
Please don't compare me to Thomas Jefferson. I'm so offended. How outrageous. Well, I guess, by these standards, by the way, and the left has been very successful at this, of saying, if you support Roy Moore, you'll destroy yourself and you'll have no credibility. By the way, Bob Menendez is still sitting in the United States Senate. But if we can only identify and support perfect people, we got one coming in just a couple weeks, baby. Announced today.
That's exactly. Michael Knowles, America's sweetheart, thank you very much for coming on. Stay tuned for the Michael Knowles Show after this.